All right, so when you picture the Victorian era, what pops into your head? Probably a lot of lace, super strict manners, very repressed. Well, get ready, because we are about to blow that idea out of the water. Today, we're diving headfirst into the story of a poet who basically took a sledgehammer to everything the Victorians held dear.
Yeah, the image most of us have of the 19th century is this world of just rigid rules and very public piety. We think of a society that's buttoned up right to the chin, both literally and, figuratively. A time when art was supposed to be noble, heroic, and above all else, proper.
But what if I told you that just beneath that very calm, very controlled surface, there was this whole world of rebellion, of radical politics, and a sensuality that was, frankly, scandalous? Because that is exactly the world we're about to uncover. Okay, but before we meet our rebel, we really need to understand the world he was rebelling against. And honestly, there is no better example of the Victorian ideal than one of the era's most famous figures, the poet and designer William Morris.
Morris was an absolute giant of his time. I mean, he looked backwards to medieval craftsmanship, to these epic Norse myths, as a way to create powerful, heroic art for his own time. His whole vision was about bringing beauty and real skill into every single corner of life. His epic poem, Sigurd de Volsung, is the perfect example of this. It's this grand, traditional story celebrating ancient heroes. In so many ways, he was the Victorian ideal.
And then there was Algernon Charles Swinburne. And he wasn't interested in reviving tradition. He was interested in blowing it right up. So while Morris was busy building these beautiful things, Swinburne was over here building bombs out of words, and he was aiming them right at the very foundations of Victorian society.
So first up, he took on religion. In an age where being devoutly Christian was just the norm, Swinburne's work was openly and completely defiant in its atheism.
Next, he dragged desire in all its messy, complicated glory right out into the open. I mean, his poetry didn't just hint at passion. It dove right into the taboo connection between pleasure and pain. He shocked his readers with a sensuality that was so raw, so direct, and just completely unapologetic.
And finally, he went after the state. He was a radical Republican, calling for revolution and celebrating freedom from tyranny. This guy wasn't just a poet. He was a one-man cultural insurgency.
So who was this guy? Algernon Charles Swinburne was a true master of the English language. I mean, a brilliant technician of poetic rhythm and sound. But he used that incredible mastery to explore the most controversial, the most hot-button subjects of his day, which made him this figure of both absolute fascination and total public scandal.
So, okay, we've heard the charges: atheist, sensualist, revolutionary. Now let's look at the actual evidence. It's time to open the books and see for ourselves why his work caused such an absolute firestorm.
Everything just exploded in 1866 with this one collection, Poems and Ballads. This was the book that made him infamous. It was a full-on assault on Victorian morality, jam-packed with themes of paganism, eroticism, and this really deep-seated rebellion.
Just take this line from his infamous poem Dolores. I am faint with love, for thy love I am sore in a strait. Now he's not just saying he's lovesick, sore in a strait. That means to be in a painful, really difficult situation. He is explicitly linking intense love with intense suffering. This was not the pure, chaste, romantic love of his time. No way. This was a painful, all-consuming, almost violent force. For Victorian readers, this was just beyond shocking.
And he didn't stop there. In the hymn to Proserpine, he writes from the perspective of a Roman pagan who is watching Christianity take over the world. And the speaker isn't celebrating this new era of faith. He's mourning the death of the old gods and all the freedom they represented.
You see, for Swinburne, paganism was the ultimate symbol of protest. It represented a world that was free from all the moral rules and the guilt of Victorian Christianity. So by celebrating it, he was basically holding up a mirror to his own society and criticizing what he saw as its suffocating and repressive nature.
In this chart, it just nails the core of his work perfectly. His poetry was this potent cocktail of rebellion, radical politics, and a deep, deep love for classical mythology, which he then used as a weapon against the status quo. You can really see this in collections like Songs Before Sunrise, which was just this fiery call for political and personal freedom all across Europe.
He also had this incredible, almost spiritual connection to nature, especially the sea. So in a poem like The Swimmer's Dream, The ocean becomes this amazing metaphor. It's a symbol of sublime power, of danger, and of freedom. It's this place where you could struggle against these immense forces, all in pursuit of something you could probably never even reach.
So Swinburne's rebellion was loud, it was explosive. But, he wasn't the only poet pushing against the rules. To really get the full picture, we need to look at another innovator from that time, one who took a completely different path to his own kind of revolution, the Jesuit priest Gerard Manley Hopkins.
I mean, the contrast here is just stunning. While Swinburne's rebellion was loud, it was public, and it was aimed at society, Hopkins' revolution was quiet, internal, and deeply spiritual. So you have Swinburne, the atheist, using this lush, sensual language to challenge morality, and then you have Hopkins, the Jesuit priest, who invented this radical new poetic meter called sprung rhythm, which was designed to sound more like natural speech, to explore his intense religious faith. Both of them were breaking the rules of poetry, but they were headed in completely opposite directions.
Okay, so after all the scandal, all the controversy, what was the lasting impact of Swinburne's provocation? I mean, did it actually change anything in the long run?
Oh, absolutely. His legacy is immense. For one, he was a technical master, and his skill with meter and form influenced generations of poets. But even more importantly, he just kicked the door wide open. He proved that poetry could tackle taboo subjects, that it could be both sensual and intellectual, and that it could be a really powerful tool for radical change. He basically gave future writers permission to be daring.
And that's really the crucial point here. His rebellion wasn't just for shock value. It was fueled by this profound and really sincere commitment to the ideals of political and personal freedom. That's the engine that was driving all of his most scandalous and his most beautiful work.
Which kind of leaves us with a question for our own time, doesn't it? Swinburne made the comfortable Victorians profoundly uncomfortable, and he forced them to confront ideas they would have much rather ignored. So it makes you wonder, who are the artists that are doing that today? And what are they forcing us to see?